We're going to get this win. Now, Fred VanVleet was just thrown out of the game.
Freddie's got to be careful. Hopefully he didn't make contact.
I hope. It's not good.
Fred VanVleet might have just set himself up for one of the biggest fines we've seen in a while. After a blatant poke in the face during the game, rumors started swirling. $500,000 fines, 5-game suspensions, the whole 9 yards. But before we dive into the aftermath, let's break down what really led to this heated moment. And we have to start with this. VanVleet isn't new to disagreements with the refs. Last season, he found himself in trouble after getting a technical foul during a heated exchange. In the post-game presser, he didn't hold back.
I mean, I don't mind. I'll take a fine. I don't really care. I thought, Ben Taylor was terrible tonight. A couple of out of the 3, there's 1 or 2 that just the game up. You could look up most of my texts this year have been with Ben Taylor officiating. So at a certain point as a player, you feel it's personal.
The league responded with a hefty $30,000 fine. Fast forward to this night, and the energy felt eerily similar, but somehow it was even worse. The refs for the night were Courtney Kirkland, a seasoned veteran, John Conley, just 2 seasons into his career, and John Butler, a rookie ref, each tasked with managing the chaos of a heated game. For VanVleet, it felt like these names were becoming all too familiar.
But did you just say Ime Udoka?
Ime Udoka, that absolutely
I like Coach
qualifies.
Udoka, but he was not your favorite.
Because in the first quarter, the refs wasted no time getting on VanVleet's case. Within just 2 minutes, rookie ref John Butler hit him with 2 quick personal fouls, forcing him to sit out early. You could see the frustration building. It was clear the tension was already starting to brew. When VanVleet returned in the second quarter, it didn't take long for trouble to find him again.
And then he ends up tripping up.
Just a few minutes back on the floor, and he was hit with another whistle, this time for a questionable offensive foul. The frustration on his face was impossible to miss, and it was clear that things were only escalating. Coming back in the third, VanVleet finally caught a break. It didn't take long to hear the whistle, but this time, it was in his favor. A brief moment of relief, but it didn't last long. When he attacked the rim later in the quarter, there was nothing but silence from the refs, despite clear contact. Even at the buzzer, to end the third, he drove hard to the basket, expecting the call, but the refs weren't budging. Frustrated, he exchanged some words with Courtney Kirkland, but it seemed like a lost cause. The tension was building, and you could feel it was only a matter of time before it boiled over. And one factor that made this boiling point inevitable? Dillon the Villain Brooks, firing up the intensity and setting the stage for that tension to explode.
And now he and Short have to be separated.
But what really caught VanVleet off guard and visibly frustrated him was a knee to the stomach from Denny Avdija.
Back in to Avdija, picked up by Şengün.
VanVleet hit the floor hard, expecting the whistle to go his way, but once again, there was silence from the officials. A little pain, sure, he could live with that. But losing the game? That was never an option for VanVleet. With just 15 seconds left on the clock, the game hung in the balance. He brought the ball up with purpose, drove hard to the basket, and, feeling contact, released it just before the 3-point line. But then, nothing.
He sees the advantage, there's the bump, and that's a shot that...
The bump was as clear as day, but the refs stood their ground, claiming it wasn't enough for a foul. You could see the disbelief written all over VanVleet's face. However, luckily for the Rockets, the game wasn't over yet. 4 seconds remained, enough time to make something happen off the inbound. VanVleet tried to get open to get the ball and tightly guarded, maybe too tight. As he tried to create space, he gave his defender a shove, and just like that, the whistle blew. Offensive foul. It was the last straw for VanVleet. The frustration, the missed calls, the constant whistles against him, it all erupted in that moment. He turned to the refs.
Gonna get this win. Now, Fred VanVleet was just thrown out of the game.
Freddie's got to be careful. Hopefully he didn't make contact.
I hope. It's not.
After those words and that little poke at the ref's head, it was no surprise that VanVleet was ejected from the game. The Rockets ended up losing the match, and as the dust settled, fans were left wondering, did he really get slapped with a $500,000 fine for that? What was the aftermath? Well, it did start with a 5, but the actual fine wasn't nearly as jaw-dropping. VanVleet was hit with a $50,000 fine, still a hefty amount, but not quite what many were expecting, especially when you compare it to LaMelo Ball's $100,000 fine for something far less controversial. It left fans scratching their heads about the consistency of league penalties. Was it justified, or was VanVleet just lucky to escape with a lighter punishment? Regardless, The incident sparked debates across the league, with everyone weighing in on where the line should be drawn. If you want to support the channel, you can now buy me a coffee. Every bit helps me create better videos and keep bringing you content like this. Your support is always appreciated.